And team, thank you. Thank you so much for joining this meeting. I know it's late, so we appreciate it on a Wednesday, of course. But Dr. Aldrich reached out to us to do this call with you. So we are honored to be invited. And what's going to happen is, well, first, let me introduce my team. Um, my name, by the way, is Tessa Monaco, and I'm the regional director for ZSpace. I am based again in Phoenix. So again, you're welcome to come, especially now. Okay, get out of that cold. And I have Stefan Singer here, who is one of our customer success managers responsible for or overseeing career awareness, readiness, all of those. He's the master. And then we also have Sheena Shoemaker, another one of our customer success managers, covering the East Coast and pretty much all of the country as well. But I appreciate you two coming on here because they are, they're ahead of us time-wise. So I appreciate you two. I owe you a lunch or a dinner, okay? But thank you. I'm gonna hand it over to, and I know we don't have enough time, so I'm gonna hand it over to Stefan, and he's gonna be overseeing or doing the presentation. But
Yeah.
please feel free to interrupt. There's something unclear or if you want more information about it. But we appreciate you guys coming to this meeting.
All right. Thank you,
Stefan, take it away.
Tessa. Yeah. Thank you, Tessa. And just before I start, can you confirm, can you see my screen with the slides?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, thank you again for having us here this afternoon. I'm going to preface this really quickly with, I have my 2-year-old next to me. So if you hear like him scream choo-choo or something, that's what that is. And actually, that's why I asked Sheena to be here with us as well, just in case I get pulled in another direction here in a second. She's going to be able to step in for me. But I'll start with a little bit more about my background and what I do with ZSpace and what is ZSpace and all that stuff. So what we wanted to talk to you a little bit about is AR, VR, augmented reality, virtual reality, and AI, artificial intelligence, for your computer science classroom, and especially through the lens of what we are able to provide with ZSpace. So I'm going to start in a little bit more general terms, and then talk a little bit more about specifically ZSpace, who we represent, and then some of the resources that we can continue to have conversations about after this meeting. I have a resource that you can use. There's actually a free version, so something that you're going to be able to get into and use right away in your classroom if you like it and you think that it's something that would benefit your students. So my role with ZSpace is career readiness, like Thessa had mentioned, and so I support all of the areas that are helping our younger learners really learn about the different careers that are available, developing some activities that will help them become or give them an opportunity to explore different specific careers before they get into high school and eventually have to choose a CTE pathway, just to help them make a more informed choice. And so virtual reality, augmented reality is a great way to do that, for them to actually be able to experience some of those things that they wouldn't be able to do typically in a classroom for various reasons. And we're going to talk about some of that here in just a second. Before I came to ZSpace, I actually was a ZSpace customer with a school district. I was a high school teacher. I taught both math, engineering, computer science, all those things that you tend to get pulled into when you're kind of the math, computer science, engineering guy, because they think you can do all those things. So I've done all of those types of things. And then eventually I supported at the school district level, supporting our engineering and computer science programs in Fulton County Schools, which is a large school district in the Atlanta area. And I've really focused very heavily on computer science while I was there. The state of Georgia actually had a mandate for every high school in the state, actually this school year, to offer computer science instruction. So there were schools that didn't currently have a computer science course, and actually a lot of schools in Georgia didn't have a computer science course. And so part of my role was to make sure, at least within the district, we were fulfilling that requirement. And not only fulfilling it, but going beyond that, expanding our middle school offerings and even our elementary school offerings. And so a little bit about my background there, and we'll dig in now to ZSpace. So as I mentioned just a second ago, I want to talk a little bit about what virtual reality is, what augmented reality is in more general terms, before we move on and talk a little bit more about ZSpace. So when you hear the term VR, virtual reality, we're talking about typically a head-mounted display or a headset. So think about like Meta. Think about something like anything that you're going to put those goggles on and have a full immersion, full immersive experience where you're not going to be able to interact with the outside environment or your actual environment. And so, for me, I think about this in a classroom full of students, giving potentially 30 middle schoolers all a headset and telling them they're going to be immersed in this virtual space is a little bit scary to me. So that's kind of how I approach this and thought about this. It has its place, certainly. There are a lot of really great things that you can do in a fully immersed virtual reality space. And I think in education, it definitely has its place. I also think there are significant challenges with this. And some of the benefits, though, are that you can provide a unique experience for every single learner. So you can provide a different task or different opportunity for every learner. Augmented reality, when we say that, AR, think about students or whoever's using the augmented reality technology are still looking at the actual space in front of them, but there's some sort of augmentation to it. So as you can see in the picture there, for example, somebody holds up their phone and an image appears on top of the books. So they're augmenting the actual reality there. And so you can think one of the really popular things that came along with augmented reality a few years ago was Pokemon Go. A lot of people played that. Probably a lot of students played that. And I know I'm talking to a lot of computer science teachers, so I'm willing to bet that there's a pretty good handful of people here in this call that played it as well. And so it's something that, is becoming more and more prevalent. We've been talking more about augmented reality, I would say, more recently, but it's been around for a while. You can also think about your Instagram filters, all of those types of things where you're overlaying images on top of a photo or a real space. They're typically delivered through a smartphone or a tablet in the camera. And that's how it creates that augmented reality experience. And so moving into what ZSpace is and what we are able to offer, it's sort of this mixed version of augmented reality and virtual reality. There are elements of both incorporated, but it is not fully immersive like VR is. There's no head-mounted display. You're still able to interact and see the environment that you're sitting in, so you can still see the classroom that you're sitting in. And basically, you're just sitting at a laptop like you see on the screen. It's actually the laptop I'm on right now on this call, which is one of the nice things about ZSpace as a platform is if you have it in your classroom, it serves as a really nice computer. It's a gaming powered computer. So it's able to do a lot of things, great CPU, great GPU, graphics card, all of those types of things. You can see a couple additional components here. So on this left-hand side, we have what we call the stylus sensor module. And then over here on the right-hand side, this is the stylus. And so these two pieces interact with each other and what allows a user to interact with the images on the screen. The images on the screen might be models or simulations that you can actually interact with in 3D space. So you can actually pull things off of the screen and it's going to appear like it's floating in space right above your keyboard, right in front of your face. And that's why we're called ZSpace. If you think about your x-axis and your y-axis, traditionally, it's your 2D space. Now we have the z-axis where we're able to pull something off of the screen and see it in front of our face in 3 dimensions. And to do that, to be able to interact with something and pull it towards you, the stylus is necessary because if you think about just using a mouse, you can't interact with an object in 3D space or make it move in 3D space that way. We need this additional component here. Just a slightly better picture so you can see it maybe a little bit more clearly and see kind of the illustration of the 3D technology there. Again, you can see some of those images appear that like they're popping off of the screen there at you. And then just with those specific parts that are labeled. One thing you can see a little bit better in this picture as well is up here across the top where you have your traditional webcam. There are also these additional cameras here that are able to track your head as you move from side to side. The image on the screen is going to move with it. So if I move my head to the side, I can look and peek around at whatever object it is I'm holding in front of my face. And so that model there, again, gives it that immersive experience so that you're able to look at things from different angles. Okay. As we look here, we think about why use virtual reality to do some of these things that we want to do. All right, buddy. So we use this acronym, or not we, I should say, this is something that we use to help communicate this. We have this acronym here, DICE. Sorry, one moment. Actually, Sheena, do you mind taking the slide for a
Yeah,
minute?
I can take this
Good.
one. We've all been
Okay.
there, done that, Stefan. So we know how it goes. So go take him. And I'll chime in here. And nice to meet you all. I am a science and health science teacher by trade and bought and implemented ZSpace in my classroom and lab. So really excited to be here with you and kind of chime in on this presentation. But Dr. Balinson from Stanford, they have a virtual sim lab over there at Stanford where they're also doing educational research and seeing how it impacts students, their outcomes, their retention rates and things like that. He has coined the acronym DICE. This is really the components of education that you would be using in an AR VR space. So I always like to preface, like, there's some things in computer science, like you simply don't need 3D for. Okay, but things that it works really well for are going to be things in your classroom that are dangerous. Like for example, like I taught anatomy and physiology, dissecting things. Like there's some students I just would not want running around my room with a scalpel. Dissecting car engines and things, like you just can't do that sometimes in this education space that you have. Impossible things. Think with computer science, there's a lot of coding that students can do that turns into 3D models that are not real life, but they can create those things now in a 3D space using coding. Counterproductive, like you wouldn't want them tearing apart all of your expensive equipment in your room as they're investigating, but you can do that in this 3D space. So think about that as you're, trying to determine what parts of AR, VR you would implement into the classroom. Concepts that fit into these categories are really where ZSpace hits home. I did see the question in there. It says, to your product as a user, do you need to use your laptop? Yes. So as Stefan was showing just a minute ago, ZSpace, it is a hardware software combo. So the hardware itself actually has a specialized stereoscopic screen built into it. It's got an NVIDIA 3060 or 3080 graphics card, depending on which version you purchase. And then it has those facial locking cameras that track. So you do have to have that specialized laptop to be able to see the items actually popping off the screen. And then the other piece of the hardware that goes along with it is that stylus and stylus sensor module. You still have to have the ZSpace laptop to be able to leverage that as well. Sharing Blender, yes. We have a lot of people that code their own apps on ZSpace. We have a number of universities actually that buy it. They don't even buy any of the ZSpace specific apps. They make all their own. So Blender, Unity, there's a lot of different platforms that you can code and be able to see your own things in 3D. Also with Blender, I did want to say too, there is it's a software that comes stock on every ZSpace Inspire called Spatial Labs. And there is extensions that you can, or plugins, I guess. You're talking to the anatomy teacher, so forgive my vocab. Stefan would definitely do a better job at this than me. It's a plugin, but for Blender, so you can, be able to see those experiences in 3D on any device.
Yeah, awesome. It sounds like great questions too.
Yeah, please feel free to keep typing them into the chat there and we'll hit them as we go through.
So now that we have a little bit better understanding of what this is, I wanted to just do what I'm hoping can be a quick activity. I know we're pretty short on time here of what we have, but I did want to just drop in the chat real quick a link to this platform called BlocksCAD. And so this is, oops, I think I just put the wrong one. Let me try that again.
I can grab the BlocksCAD one for you, Stefan. Oh, you got it.
Okay, there we go.
Quick, you got it.
I had two pulled up that I was ready to share, and I just shared the wrong one. So this is a platform called BlocksCAD, and so it's your kind of your traditional blocks-based coding platform. And I accidentally have the when I pulled it pulled up my answer. I thought I was going to pull up a blank screen, but it did not. So this is something, there's actually a free version available. You can access it on your laptop there. So it's just a web-based platform. There is, I don't know that the terminology is called pro, but there is more or less a pro version available as well, that is paid. I think basically the difference is that it comes with more pre-made lessons and things like that. So there are things, just very quickly, as you get into that editor, you can see at the top, there's a section called Teach. So in there, you'll find some pre-made lesson plans and activities that you can do with your students. But what I wanted to do with this group, since you're computer science teachers, is just give you a very brief, quick tour of some of the capabilities of BlocksCAD, some of the blocks that are here, and then give you a little bit of an assignment that if you don't finish it, that's okay. But just to give you an opportunity to play around with this just a little bit. And so the gist of BlocksCAD is basically that you're coding in blocks-based code programming language, and you're going to be able to just build with shapes, basically. And you use mathematical transformations to place those shapes and size those shapes on the grid over here. So if you open up the 3D shapes, for example, you'll see the 4 basic 3D shapes that you can build with. You can build with spheres, cubes, cylinders, or a torus. Same idea there with 2D shapes, some of the shapes you can build with. The other main section we're going to use, at least in the activity we're going to do together here, are transforms. And so this is how you actually place those objects onto a space in the 3D grid. So if you notice the translate one, for example, if I were to grab that block, I can see I can translate things along the X, Y, and or Z axis. And then what I would do is I would actually grab a shape to place it inside of that translate block to tell it what to move into that space. And so let's just say for a second that this is what I wanted it to do. I'm going to translate it to 0, 0, 0, basically. I'm going to translate a sphere of radius 10. And so to see what that does, just to illustrate this again here quickly, if I hit render, it's just going to build exactly what I have. Notice centered at the origin, 0, 0, 0. It's built a sphere of radius 10. I know I can't see that exact unit, but if I were to change this and maybe make it 25 and hit render again, we should see that it gets a little bit bigger. And so that's the basic idea here with BlocksCAD, is I'm able to use these sequences of transforms and 3D shapes and different things like that to just build 3D objects in the window over here. Now, what makes it more powerful with ZSpace, and you're not going to be able to tell, unfortunately, over a Zoom call, but I can hit this Enter VR button, where it's going to bring that object and enter kind of that 3D world that I was talking about earlier, where I would be able to view the object that I had built in 3D space and view it on my ZSpace laptop. That feature would not be available on a different device, obviously, but for us here on a ZSpace laptop, we would be able to do that. So again, I want to just give you all a little bit of an opportunity to play with this for just a moment. Not a ton of time, because I know we're relatively short on time here this evening. But I did want to give you an opportunity to play with BlocksCAD. And the little assignment I was going to give to you was going to be to try to build a snowman. And so this will also give us an opportunity, if anybody has any questions about BlocksCAD or anything else we've talked about, we can use this time for that as well. But again, feel free, just take a few minutes, and if you don't get the whole thing built, no big deal, but take a few minutes and just play around with BlocksCAD. See if you can figure out those transforms and those 3D objects to build a snowman. One of the things you notice probably right away is the different colors. I'll just give you a hint. The color block is also in the transform section. So I'm going to actually just pause for a moment and let everybody try that. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm going to chime in real quick, Stefan, on a couple questions in the chat. So, and Thessa, please feel free to unmute as well to address these. But basically some questions about other hardware and compatibility with the software. So many of the ZSpace apps are ZSpace specific. So you would have to have a ZSpace computer system to be able to leverage those apps. There are some apps like what Stefan was just showing you. This is a web app. So it is compatible with other devices. You can use the web version, but you won't be able to get into 3D on any device. Like the InterVR in those only works on a ZSpace device. So you will find some of the apps that are in the ZSpace selections do work over other things. Some of the medical ones, things like that, there is a web-enabled version. As far as the meta headsets. The only app I think that has crossover that we have, it's actually a free open source app called Tilt Brush. It's a like an art painting app where you take the paddles and you can paint on ZSpace. That is a free app that comes on ours, and you're able to use the stylus to paint in 3D. Thessa, do you want to chime in on that on crossover? I saw her come back in. Maybe
I
she's frozen.
agree with you. You know, that's the only one that I am aware. Can hear you.
Oh,
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, okay. So yeah, so I agree with you, Sheena. The only one that I'm aware of is also Tilt Brush. However, Sharon, what I'll do is let me kind of review this a little bit more with others to see if there's you know, some that Sheena and I are aware of that the others are using. Because that is an ask that's been a question that comes up quite a bit, but we're not aware of any, but I will check that out for you. If you can give me your email address on the chat here, I could definitely get back to you with any additional, you know, crossovers or anything like that that I can find. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tessa. All right. So again, I know you probably didn't have enough time if you were trying to build the snowman. That's okay. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to play around with BlocksCAD and see it a little bit in action. Think about the great, connections to what's going on in math classes at your school too. So that's another big thing that I believe in, is making sure we can make connections to support core and CTE and vice versa. I think any way we can make those connections is really good to help our fellow teachers, but also for the students to see the relevance of what they're doing in their core classes. Again, I think about my time as both a math teacher and an engineering teacher, and I could teach almost the same lesson in both classes. But when you teach it in an engineering context and they're learning about box plots because they're collecting data to inform their design decisions, they don't ask me, why do I have to learn this when I'm ever going to use this in my real life? So when you're able to kind of provide that context, especially through CTE, a lot of times it can help to reinforce those concepts that they're learning in the other classes. Just to show this to you here in BlocksCAD, if I were to go to that teach section and then click on lessons, and then I click on just an example. Let's see, I'll do CTE. Actually, I'm just going to click on, it's going to make me select a grade level. Oh, why this isn't.
Oh, it's probably because you're not logged in, Stefan. So on the free
Oh,
one, it doesn't show it to you.
okay. Thanks.
Yep. That's part of the beauty of the pro version, is all the lesson plans that come along with it. There you go. You're in now.
Yep. There we go. Thank you.
And then they should
So,
populate. There it goes.
yep. So we can see the all the different lessons. And so if you search for any of these lessons, they're going to come with teacher notes, a handout, a solution, and some starting blocks. So those are all really good resources. Once again, if you liked BlocksCAD and you want to explore it a little bit more, again, use the free editor with your students just to see if it's something you're interested, see if they like it, see if you like it. And then consider if it's something you want to do in your class, just consider if you want access to all the free lesson or all the lesson plans and stuff like that are available. So again, that's BlocksCAD. Trying to get to my other tab. The Zoom thing at the top always gets in the way of being able to switch tabs. The next thing I wanted to do, just kind of on the same idea as BlocksCAD, is to think about, promote how you can think about incorporating problem solving and design thinking into your classroom. And I'm going to show you an example of this, of a school that did this from the Atlanta area using ZSpace. And they designed a solution for a real world problem that basically the kids in the class had found. So I'm going to just click play. It's about a minute just to illustrate this.
It doesn't look like the sound is shared, Stefan.
Thank you.
School, and we were talking to the students about Jade, and the students were just so moved by her story, and it sounded they were affected by the fact that she lost her tail, so they wanted to do something for her. So you'll see in just a few minutes something that the school has done for Jade that will improve her life.
Jade's story really resonated with a lot of our students. Cancer is something that hits home with a lot of people. They said, well, Ms. Ernest, why can't we do for Jade what they did for Winter the dolphin? We have the 3D printers and we have the technology, and that's something that the kids are fully capable of doing. We spent several weeks sketching and designing. We got several prototypes.
And let me just make sure that we get a point here. There are no designs out there that Jennifer just downloaded.
Yeah,
she created this with her students. This is
not a pop and drop.
This is her creation with her students. This is fascinating. Because this technology did not exist when we were growing up, like
no,
the 3D printed.
Not with mine either. This was all new. This was a learning experience.
This is teaching children to solve a real world problem.
Absolutely.
Early on, but when you have it applied to changing an animal's life.
Yeah. This is that social emotional learning
There was
connection.
a lot of social emotion, and there was a lot of math.
I wish they had this when I was a kid. This would have been so exciting.
I know.
And so I like that clip because it shows kind of the connection between what's going on with ZSpace, the design thinking process, and how this technology, virtual reality, can be used to visualize designs in a little bit more clear way before something is 3D printed. Okay. I just wanted to share a little bit more about some of the other offerings that we do have at ZSpace, and some of it's not even specifically our software. Some of it's companies that we partner with that work on our platform. And so the one that I have here showing on my screen is called Mastery Coding, and this is basically courseware. I'm gonna put slideshow mode real quick so you can see this a little bit more clearly. These are the different courses that Mastery Coding has available. And I think I filtered actually on this one to high school grade ranges. So you can see some of these are 9 to 12. Some of these are grades 6 to 10. And you can see some of the different types of categories that are on here. So they have this idea of like computer science foundation. So kind of like your intro to computer science type courses. Also notice that there's some game development and web development. So you can think about, especially on a virtual reality device like ZSpace, think about the power of being able to visualize some of the games that are being created in three-dimensional space, or the characters that are being created in three-dimensional space. I'm not going to go into great detail about any one of these, but I just wanted to make you aware that this is Mastery Coding, again, is a company that we partner with. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, I'm going to drop in the chat right now just a link to their website of courses so you can peek through there. And probably more importantly is that when you get on there, if you click on any one course, you can actually find a syllabus for the courses in terms of what content is available and what's taught in the course, as well as how long, like basically a time range for how long each of those lessons lasts, or each of those units lasts. Okay. And then there's the one last thing that I wanted to demonstrate. And actually, Sheena, do you mind demonstrating Career Coach?
Absolutely. Let me get it pulled up.
Okay.
Can I take over the screen share
Yes.
from you? Okay.
Yep. And while she's getting that pulled up, so this last piece here, we were talking about AI at the beginning of this call, but if you think about AI chatbots, and we were just talking about Google Gemini, for example, and some of the things that it was unfortunately in the news for recently, ZSpace has actually developed its own AI chatbot that is specifically designed to have conversations with students about careers, and to teach them about careers, and to allow them to research about careers. And so to me, as once again, a former high school teacher and school district administrator who was still in the school district when all these conversations about AI were happening, one of the beautiful things about this, to me, is it solves a lot of the problems around concerns that we have with AI chatbots. So, when ChatGPT first became a thing, I would say the number one thing teachers were worried about was students are going to write their essays with this. They're going to answer all the questions that I asked them to write. They're going to use ChatGPT. Well, Career Coach, once again, is designed to have these conversations with students specifically about careers. It's not going to be writing a student's English essay for them. Sheena's about to show some of the functionality that it does have. Some of the other things that it can kind of ease, some of the concerns it can ease is it's not collecting any personally identifiable information from students. That's another major concern, especially with students in education using AI, sharing information. So what it can do is pull information from sites like BLS.gov and Career One Stop, which has been sponsored by the Department of Labor, and pull all this data about different careers. And so, Sheena, I'll turn it over to you with that.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, and you're seeing my career coach?
Yes.
Okay, so again, it's an AI chatbot, but it has like educational parameters around it. So students are able to type in like, I like this type of concept, and what job should I have? And then it's going to give them ideas. So you'll kind of see it's very conversational with them. So it says, hi, it's great that you like computers. There are a lot of cool jobs. And it gives them some ideas. And then it will always end with another prompting question for them. So as we're just talking about AI and, students need to understand prompt engineering, but with the educational parameters of this, it's always going to bring them back towards a career-based or science-based answer and get them engaged in that, that side of the house. So I'm just going to type in a few things so that you could see here. So it told me cybersecurity was an option. So I'm going to say, what is cybersecurity? It'll populate an answer here. And I want to show you one other cool feature for geolocating that is installed within the app. Sounds good. What schools in my area have this? So you'll notice right now, although I live in Duluth, Minnesota, where I feel you on the pain of the snow because we typically get like 12 feet of snow a year. Right now, I'm at a school district in South Carolina giving professional development. So you'll notice that the answer that it gave me is in South Carolina because I'm attached to a Wi-Fi here at a hotel in South Carolina. And it specifically called out 2 of the local universities where I am. Not only is it going to be university based, but technical colleges. So this is one of the closest ones to me right now, get called out. And then again, it will finish up with a prompting question. So would you like to know more about the programs that you can study? I want to show you, or I'm going to stop right there. Any questions on kind of like the prompting and the answers that it'll give on this?
Just a real quick call out too. So, and you might have said this and I missed it. So it will geolocate to the state level as well. So with that idea of it's not tracking the student or the user, it's able to locate the device within this as far as the state is concerned.
Yep. Any questions on that? Okay, go ahead.
Tessa kind of answered this for me, but I have a further follow-up question. So Tessa, you said that it's on the ZSpace devices. So that means that it's proprietary, that you can only get it on a ZSpace device? Okay. Just wondered.
Okay.
Yes, and unless it's a web app like Blockscad, for example. So you could access the Blockscad site via the URL that I had posted earlier. Actually, same thing with the Mastery Coding. They're a third-party partner of ours. And so they're just online courseware, basically.
Right.
Those aren't necessarily, they don't have to be specifically done in virtual reality. They just work on our platform, and so we partner with them.
Yeah, the only reason I'm asking is our school just started a work-based learning program here at our high school. And one of the things we struggled with was trying to, either through a survey or right now it was just a paper pencil survey that we asked kids, what are you interested in? What kind of business or industry would you like to be partnered with for your work-based learning experience? And I know there's a lot of software programs out there, that do interest inventory surveys, but it seems like that, just what you've shown me here with this career coach AI, I mean, fact that you said it, it's, you know, talks about, you know, in your area. So it's specifically designed, you know, to look within the students, you know, where they're high, like if they did this at my high school, you know, I'd probably see, you know, like say colleges out of Utah or colleges out of Wyoming that would be, you know, specific to where the student is located, which a lot of interest surveys that I've seen the kiddos take, they're not that specific. And so it leads to sometimes frustration on the student's part because they're like, okay, yeah, you tell me that I'm interested in this, but where can I go to do that? So that's the reason I was asking.
And I like also what Sheena was just kind of showed there. She actually showed a slightly different approach where she just said, she doesn't know what the career is. She just said, I like art and cars. What are some jobs that are related to this? So that's another approach sort of based on what you just said, where maybe students are doing an interest survey. Maybe they don't even know what the job is that they want to do, but they know their interest is, and it can help them kind of make that connection as well.
Are these transcripts? So I see a copy feature there. So if a student goes through like can they download or save a copy of this transcript for further use?
Yes. Yes, up there at the top, there is an export, so they can export it. The information is not saved though. That's part of like, you know, we don't want to be collecting student information here. So
Right.
they
That was
can
my next
export
question.
it. They can export it, but as soon as they close Career Coach, it's going to start fresh. It's not like Chat GPT where the stuff will be saved in the background, you know, like, and be
It's for the-
prompting based on the other stuff that they had done prior to that session, but they can export if they want to go back to the things that they had. So they could, you know, like, especially if you made an assignment out of this and you wanted them to do some answering, they could export it and turn that into you so that you can see the work that they've done.
Yeah, so that's what I was meaning. It's FERPA and COPA compliant, so you're not
Yeah.
collecting the student
Yep.
data. Cool.
And then Sharon, to add too, the advantage, we did the career coach intentionally to work on our devices because as Stefan mentioned earlier, we do support career and technical education. So a lot of our software focus on CTE. So when they are on the ZSpace device and they ask career coach for example, automotive, they can link it quickly to one of our automotive apps. And so that's when that AR/VR happens. So that connection is important. The other thing too, I wanted to, and I don't know if Stefan and Sheena mentioned it, but it's also in different languages. So if you need support for a student that wants it in a different language, you can. I actually tried it. I was in Hawaii last week and I tried it in Hawaiian and it worked. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I could actually learn to do this. So yeah, so that's the reason why it is, I mean, it's available on our ZSpace device.
Yeah, and I think Career Coach is a really great tool. Honestly, it's as I've built some of the career readiness things that I'm working on outside of computer science for ZSpace, it's probably to me the most important thing that we can offer. So I think it's really powerful, and so I wanted to show it to you all as computer science teachers, whether you're giving students, you know, teaching them about careers in computer science or just kind of teaching them about AI in general. I think it's a great tool that could help you out. So I just wanted to share that with you. And so that I think is pretty much right at a half hour. So I think I've pretty much hit my time perfectly. So I just wanted to share again my contact information there. There's my email. And then again, as Tessa mentioned, she is the ZSpace regional director for your state. So I wanted to include her information as well. So if you liked any of the resources that I shared and are interested in potentially getting it into your classroom for your students, she would be the right person to kind of start that conversation with and figure out what would be best for your space and for your classroom and for your school. She can help you work out all those details. And I should have included Sheena. I didn't ask her until recently to hop on. So thank you, Sheena. I'm sorry I didn't include your picture on here,
No,
but I really
it's
appreciate
okay.
your support here this evening as well.
That's okay. And Sharon, if you would just email Stefan right there at ssinger@zspace.com, he can definitely get you a copy of the presentation so you can share it to your admin.
Yes, I'll be happy to.
And then Sharon, also, since I'll be sending you additional information about the crossovers, know that we are also available by Zoom or on site. So if your administrators prefer to have either of those, let me know. Happy to arrange that.
I was just gonna say, Stefan, you I closed it too fast.
Yeah, I realized I did that right as I closed it. So here it is.
Okay, I got it.
Yep.
because we're going to be starting to have conversations on what to do with next year's Perkins money. And like I said, I already have mentioned, you know, I have 9 Alienware systems, 9 Meta Quest systems already in place. So those are conversations I'd have to have with my admin, you know, as far as adding some more, but they're used to me adding new quests to spend big dollars. So it works.
You got to advocate for yourself.
Well, and you know, we don't know, you know, as far as, you know, our little district, our high school is only about 757 kids is what our enrollment was this past year, certified for grades 9-12. So we're, you know, a pretty small district, and really the only way that we're going to get any of this type of technology into my students' hands is by, you know, doing grants or, you know, using, you know, federal funding. So it's just one of those things that, you know, I'm sure like everybody on this call, you know, the CTE department, you have welding, you have woods, you have automotive, you have culinary, you have business and computer science that are all vying for those dollars. So we have to make a good presentation and to be persuasive in order to get those dollars to fall my way.
and actually, and we don't, probably this isn't the platform, but Thessa would be a great person to have that conversation, because
Yep.
if your school is looking for something that will work for all of those things that you just mentioned, ZSpace can actually do that. So I think that's part of that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you all so much for your time this evening. Thank you for what you do every day for your students. Again, as somebody who was recently in that role, I know how hard and how challenging the work is, but how rewarding the work is as well. So again, thank you so much for everything that you do. Thank you for being here this evening to continue your own professional development and learn. And if there's anything that I can do to support you, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is in the chat. And I'm sure both of my team members would say the same. So thank you all.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you so much for coming. And, you know, I know you're not afraid to show up in Wyoming at any time of year. So really feel free to give her a call, because she'll get on a plane for sure. Or drive up even. I mean, she's not afraid of anything. So does anybody have anything they want to talk about before we hang up, or have any questions for me CTE wise as far as WDE or anything like that? No? All right. Well, then go fight win, kids. Enjoy your evening. We'll
Thank
see
you,
ya.
Elaine. Thank you, everyone.
No
Have a good
problem.
night.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.